Yeah, hello, good morning. I hope we're all doing well. We're wide awake and enjoying the gentle sound of the rain if you're in Mendocino County. I'm not sure how things are in Sonoma today, but definitely it's a rainy one, which is good for the flowers. So just before we get going, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Penny for having us here. I am the event coordinator with the West Business Development Center, and just very briefly going to let everyone know, in case there are folks on the call today who don't know who and what we do. So the West Business Development Center is a nonprofit funded by the Small Business Administration, a federal organization, and we host two centers. We host the Women's Business Center and we host the Small Business Development Center for Mendocino and Lake County. Now, West, as you can see, our beautiful funders, West is funded through federal, California, state, and local government grants. In exchange for those grants, we provide free, confidential business services. Our goal is to provide these services to entrepreneurs and small business owners during every stage of business development. So whether you are running your business, whatever it may be, for many, many years, or you're just starting out, or you're trying to figure out how you can pivot and find alternative revenue streams with your resources, that is what we help with. Now, you might be asking, well, how do we do that? Well, we do this primarily through our no-cost one-on-one advising. So if you are experiencing any issues getting your business going, or you're not really sure how to get things off the ground, we have advisors who can help speak with you one-on-one, because every single business is a little bit different, a little unique, and that's the beautiful thing about business. So we have a plethora of advisors. So whether you're looking for help with marketing or accounting or hiring, whatever it may be, we pretty much run the whole gamut. We're working with about 15 to 20 advisors, and we can help put you in touch. We also offer low-cost workshops and free webinars. So we'll pretty much, again, run the whole gamut from basic business planning. We're running in digital ABCs to help with e-commerce, as we're still transitioning into a fairly virtual world. And we also assist with loan readiness and loan packets. So whether you're getting ready to apply for a business loan, or you have questions about an existing business loan and you just need some help clarifying all the paperwork and the details and the documentation, that's also an area that we assist with as well. So that's just a very quick overview of what West is and what we do. If you're not already speaking with an SBDC or a WBC advisor or getting assistance with those resources, again, these programs are federally funded. It's your tax dollars at work, and they're here for you to help however we possibly can. So I really encourage you to reach out either via our website or our phone. If you're not in Mendocino County, you can call us anyway, and we will help put you in touch with your local center, because we're a big network and we're, like I said, all here to help. So that's enough about that. I'm gonna put some helpful links in the chat for those who wanna reach out or find out more information. But what I'd like to do now is pass things off to Steve Lamb. Steve Lamb is one of our client service managers. He's one of the first points of contact for most, if not all, of our clients. He's also become our resident EIDL and PPP loan and California grant expert. Pretty much anything we throw at him, he becomes an expert overnight. And if he doesn't know the answer, by gosh, within 24 hours, he'll find the answer or find someone who can help get the answer for you. So Steve, do you want to take it away?
Great. Thank you very much, Clara. And Penny, thank you very much for inviting us. Very much appreciated. So we're going to talk about business plans today. This is probably the most unexciting subject ever in business. Is you work on all these things and now you're trying to put it on paper and you don't know what to say. If you're a professional writer, I've always been told that the thing that scares you the most is a blank piece of paper. And that is truly true with regard to doing a business plan. There are formats, there are always formats available to you and whatnot, but the most important thing is that a business plan enables you to get your idea out of your head, and the conversations you've had with networking components with regard to peers, family, people that you have seek advice from, getting it down on a piece of paper. There is nothing worse than working on something and you haven't written it down and you cannot remember what it is. And you spend the next 2 or 3 hours racking your brain trying to figure out what was that idea. Get it down on paper. To that end, I'm going to go over a few things about overall what a business plan is really all about, and some of the backward part of it. If you have the outline opened up, great. I was going to share it, but I think that's just going to cause a little problem. Let's just talk about it. We're not going to do a verbatim discussion of the outline. We're just going to talk about the things that advisors talk about to each other about business plans and whatnot. Number one, instead of sitting down and doing a business plan, use something like a business plan questionnaire. It's what we use with our clients. It's the first document they get if they're going to start a business, even if they have a business. And this is not a document for narratives. This is a document for bullet points, 10 to 12 words only. That's it. No more, no less. Each one of those bullet points will represent a paragraph or an entire section within the business plan itself, but it gives you an opportunity to start laying it down on paper and have it in front of you when you start working on a business plan. Along that vein, with a lot of clients that they're looking for funding, they've got a path going forward, we talk to them about 2 separate items. A, what does this business look like in 5 years? And we talk about it, and then we tell them, after you finish your first business plan questionnaire, build one for year 5. What does the business look like? And from that, we're able to sit down again at another meeting and start building what's called the bridge plan. And the bridge plan is between, this is where I started today, this is where I want to be in 5 years. The bridge plan gets you to there. And believe it or not, all 3 of these are put together inside the business plan as one document, but they create the foundation for either yourself or for a lender of showing what you're doing and where you're going to be and why they should invest with you. Or you're looking for an investor themselves that brings a specialty to you. Either it's just funds or they bring a technical expertise to you that you want them to get involved. That bridge shows that there's a future in this for them. The other thing involved with this is that a business plan is building goals and a sequence of those goals and a line of communications, both internal and external. Internal is probably the most important. Like most business advisors, then there's 1,100 offices like ours across the United States. Most business advisors are the same. I spent 28 years in the telecommunications industry. I retired. I started a small business. I needed help. I found the local SBDC. A couple of years later, I had an expertise they were looking for. I became a contract advisor and then became an in-house advisor. Through all of this, we see all of those things that go into putting a plan together. Where things fall apart is internal communications. And when you have a business plan that is built for the internal communications of your folks, anybody, internal stakeholders, anybody you're working with, these are extremely large plans. And they could be 20 pages long, 30 pages long. I saw one from a client that was almost 200 pages long. And it needed to be with regard to what they were doing. They were building components for electric vehicles. And they had laid out the entire industry where it was going in the next 5 years. And internally, they needed to build a map, and that's what they did with this. And like all internal documents, right on the cover, it says confidential, do not distribute. You're giving away the secrets to the farm, if you will, when you allow other people to see this plan. And you're going to hear all kinds of people that are finding out, oh, I heard you're building a new battery for an EV use. What's it all about? And you're anxious to tell them because you got a lot of time built into it. But you're telling a competitor, or you're not telling a competitor. Maybe you're going to tell an advisor. You don't know who you're talking to. Make sure these plans are confidential. Plans to go to bankers, lenders, investors, 10 pages. That's it. And you should have a number of images in there that are actually dealing with the subject matter on that page. Use the narrative to tie it together, let the pictures tell the story. Unfortunately, or fortunately, 25, 30 years ago, a banker would sit there in front of a 20-page business plan and read it from beginning to end, grade it, and then send it off to a researcher. Today, they don't even do that. They look at the executive summary, they look at the financials, and they either throw it in the trash can or they send it on. But the most important thing is they send it on because they understood the initial concept, and images do that. Several ways you can put a business plan together. You can go to the SBA website and download a business plan format. Get into their FAQ pages, take a look at sample business plans, how they're put together. They are usually put together in industry and sectors. So with regard to whatever you're doing, you'll probably see at least 3 or 4 different examples, and they're all pretty much the same. Another option is to use a business plan service. There is a preferred vendor to the SBA called LivePlan. The one unique thing they bring is that this is a living document to them. It is a paid service. It's $20 a month for it. This is not a advertisement for them. But I tell you what, we had a client that was putting a $4.5 million loan together. He was done in 2 days with his business plan, including the financials. And just by sitting down and doing this, I'd get a call at 8 o'clock at night. I just finished up. Can you take a look at it? Gave me a password through the vendor, went in, made my comments. He put it back together and sent it off to the lender. 3 weeks later, he got the word that he was good to go. It is a very simple way to go. And the most important thing is it has financials, and it also has financial analysis. There are 14 different ratios that a lender or investor will look at. And you get to look at them first before they even see it, and you'll know what they're supposed to be for your industry. And it just puts you that much further ahead of the game with regard to, you don't have to wait to hear the news from the bank or anything. You know what they're going to say because you are within the acceptable margins. The other thing is know your audience. I'm going to go back to my electric vehicle contractor. When he put his plan together for the bank, it was dollar and cents. He was also looking for an investor that was with a group, very green, and he knew he couldn't use the same language with them. They would just, it would mean nothing to them. And the catchphrase he used in that business plan was, we need to stop using food for fuel. And he was talking about turning corn into a usable fuel for gasoline engines. And that's what sold the plan. And did he put that in there because he needed the what they had? Yes, he did, but he also believed it. That's why he was in that industry. But he also knew if he used something like that with a three-piece suit sitting in a bank going to make a decision on a multi-million-dollar loan, it would have been lost on him unless he was going to a specialty bank. So know your audience. Make sure that your executive summary and your mission statements are put together for that reader. Mission statements. Mission statements prior to the real estate crash could have been 5 pages long, 1,000 bullet points. We're all this. After the crash, things changed a lot to where a mission plan is now about 2 sentences. And if somebody asks you who you are and what you do, you should be able to verbatim say that business or say that mission statement without it in front of you. It needs to be that concise. And what you're doing is you're building a bridge between who you are and what you're doing to them, letting them know what you're doing. And that mission statement actually starts becoming a mantra throughout the entire business plan. And you're either repeating it or you're using variations of it, but it means the same thing. Another thing real quick is all of my clients, when I meet them for the first time, and now with our Zoom meetings, they get this in an email. Watch a 5-minute marketing video called The Golden Circle. It's from a gentleman by the name of Simon Sinek. A lot of people will probably recognize the name from TED Talks and other things. I saw this video in 2016 at a national SBA conference, and I thought it was the neatest thing I ever saw. I looked around the room. There were about 300 advisors like me there, and they all had the same look on their face. They never heard anything like this before. And this is essentially is what's your why? Why are you doing this? And that's what he talks about. In the attachment that you have that has the web links, there's a web link to it. It's called The Golden Circle. It's in the marketing section. And I would highly recommend that you watch it at least once. And when you're having a problem focusing on what you're doing in any part of doing your business, watch it and take a look at, think about why you're really doing what you're doing, not what you're doing or how you're doing it, but why you're doing it. And that will bring your passion back in, let you know where you need to go on a certain decision or project. Market analysis. If you're a large company, you've either got a marketing department and somebody in there is in charge of market analysis, target marketing and everything else. If you're not that big, you probably have a contractor that does it for you. When you are a single operator owner, or you've got 1 or 2 employees, it falls on you. And the first place that you should be going is to the Department of Labor, to the NAICS sheet. There's a link for that also in the attachment. And essentially what you're looking at is you are looking at every single industry in the United States. And you can get, well, this is probably where everybody else goes. This is where the large corporations go to find out data. How many people are doing this? What are their size? How many employees? How much are they generating every year in sales? And it just goes on and on and on. You can find a ton of information. You find out that there are certain things that you can do that's an LOB. LOB stands for line of business. And what that means is you have an existing business, but now you're getting ready to launch something else on top of it. It's called a line of business. In my old life, it was video. And then we launched high-speed data, and that was an LOB. And that's essentially what one of the most important researching tools is for. What else can I do with my business? And that's one of the core reasons that you're here today. What else can I do with my business? And the NAICS can help you with that. Numbers, references, and whatnot. Another research tool, I don't know if you've ever heard of Glassdoor. I've been aware of it since it actually came out. They do 2 very important things. A, I have a job title, a job description, what is the average pay for this job and position? You can find that in glassdoor.com. If you're looking at working with an organization, you can find out what their current and past employees have said about that organization. It may be good, it may not be good, but it's there. And of course, don't forget, we're all human beings, and whatever's being said is being generated from a human being. And so you're going to have personal biases, both positive and negative, involved. Organization and management. Most of us start off as sole proprietors. And then as we move forward, we start gaining assets, and somebody says, you need to become an LLC. And why? Well, it's a limited liability company. And if anything ever happens to where you're sued, you got to file bankruptcy, you have to do anything else. The only thing that is up for grabs are the assets of the business, not your personal assets as they are as a sole proprietor. And so you become an LLC. And if you're a single member managed LLC, you're filing your taxes on Schedule C, just like you did before. A couple of other pieces of paperwork go with it. And then one day you wake up and you did $250,000 in sales, and now you owe income tax on $175,000. Last year it was $38,000. What do? File a simple piece of paper with the state of California and you are a corporation. Simple as that. Very important thing going on right now. Well, actually, it's not as simple as that. Your CPA or accountant will take care of that for you. But something that has happened because of COVID, the state of California has put a moratorium on the annual $800 tax for being an LLC. When you become an LLC, it's a $70 registration fee, $5 credit card charge, and then on April 15th or whatever day they select each year, you owe the state of California $800 for your LLC. First time LLC filings for 2021 are 0, which means you will not pay the $800 tax until April 15th, 2022. If you already have an LLC, unfortunately, you're not going to be allowed to do that. But if you have ever been thinking about doing an LLC, talk to your financial people, make sure it makes sense. $800 can be a make or break for small businesses that are starting out. But when you're looking at your balance sheet and you're thinking, I need to take care of this, I've got too much hanging out there that I own personally, then you can go ahead and do that, and it's free. Marketing and sales. Marketing and sales makes the world go around. When you're doing your business plan, you can talk a little bit about how you're going to define your target market, how you're going to reach them. But what you're really talking about is the overall strategy. How are you going to communicate? And behind the lines, some of the things that happen to our clients, and we've started to pick it up in this part of a business plan, is what do they do about testimonials? What do they do about any communication from a client that's very positive that they want to document? And testimonials are the hardest. If you've ever gotten a testimonial from a vendor that buys from you, or a client or a customer that buys from you, and you don't want to know something, this was absolutely exactly what I've been looking for. I've been trying to find something like this forever, and you were the only person that knew what I was talking about. And I just want to thank you. That's a great testimonial. And if we ask them for a testimonial, we might be lucky if we get something back in the next 2 weeks, because now we're looking at the blank piece of paper syndrome again. What do I say? I don't want to be over gushing, and I don't want to disrespect them. What do I say? So the easiest way to do this is a way of doing it. It's been going around for about 10 years, and it's highly, highly effective. Every time you get a testimonial, if it's verbal, write it down, send it back to them, ask them to review it, and have them just sign their first name or sign their company name. And if it is coming from, if it's a B2B testimonial, ask them for a copy of their logo so you can put it on your website and on your social media. The other thing is, as you're getting those, prepare an email and start putting these testimonials in. Leave the names blank. So when somebody says something, ask them, would you mind doing a testimonial for us? No, we'd love to. Great, I'm going to send you an email. Take a look, see what we've got there. And if it fits, put your name to it. If you feel like altering it, go ahead, change it and send it back. You'll get something back in the next 10 to 15 minutes, because they don't have to start from scratch and bidding the wheel. They're just going in and, oh, this is the experience I had. And they'll change a couple of words to make it theirs, put their name on it, and send it right back to you. And it is one of those things that it really starts to propel your business forward, and it's built into the marketing strategy. It is in there. It's one of those and now we're talking about the internal plan, about how marketing operates. It's one of those things that when you're trying to figure out how to do what you got to do, that's part of the internal plan. And let's face it, you're not going to have a policies and procedures manual, not until you get to a point where you've got employees and you're starting to have issues, or they all have different responsibilities. Then you'll have that policy and procedure plan put together. But until that happens, that's what the internal business plan is for. And many organizations, when they go in to do a P&P handbook, they will turn around and they will first go to their internal business plan and start highlighting and pulling those things out that need to go into the handbook, like the mission statement. Funding request. Nothing more fun than taking something that you created and taking it to somebody and nobody else has seen it yet. And all of a sudden it's starting to hit you. How good is this? Are they going to say yes? Or are they going to say no? What's going to happen? Funding requests. You need to sit down with somebody and go through your business plan from cover to cover. And it doesn't really matter if they have any experience in your business or anything else, but you do want them to ask you questions. And if these are questions that should be answered in the business plan, then your business plan is not ready for the light of day. It needs to go through another treatment. Now, as you're doing this, think of the questions they're going to ask. And it's going to be around, how are you going to pay back the money? That's part of that external business plan. How are you going to pay us back the money? Well, that's built into your marketing and sales plans. That's built into your financials. And the scariest thing about the financials, and every single SBA score or any other business plan document has always said the same thing when it gets into the financials. Within the first two paragraphs is, you have no idea how much you're going to sell. How do you start? Guess. And that's what you do. You guess. Now, you can make a very educated guess with a little research with regard to other companies, other businesses. When you're talking to us, we kind of know what businesses do. We know where they start out. We know what kind of sales they do. Chambers of commerce are also a good place to go. Industry associations. Every single industry in the United States usually has an industry association. And yes, you have to be a paid member to get certain things like legal help or things like that. But they also have a lot of information that's absolutely free. Sometimes that's one of it. One of those things that you can find. The most important part, though, is don't be afraid to make a guess. You got to start somewhere. And that's where we find with our clients the biggest problem. They don't know where to start. They don't want to make a mistake, so they don't do anything. And the problem with that is, if you're not making an error, you're not learning anything. And you have to make mistakes. That's how we all learn. And the more mistakes you make, the more you learn. And then to a certain point, you realize you haven't made a mistake in a while because you're finally figuring out how this business or this industry works. Very important for you guys to understand what's really happening within your businesses. That brings us to a very important point that every advisor has a conversation with their client. And that is, how much time are you working in the business and how much time are you working on the business? And most people spend most of their time working in the business until, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night, and they got to start paying some bills, or they got to do some email correspondence, so they got to do something else. And that, after a while, really starts to wear on you. That's also in the business plan, how you deal with that on the internal business plan. You set aside certain days with regard to, this is when I'm going to do my callbacks, or certain times during the day. Between 9 and 11, I'm answering emails and I'm doing my callbacks. Anything like that, that is done inside the business plan. And so when you're sitting down and you got a problem, well, wait a minute, we talked about this. What were we going to do? You go to the business plan. It should be there. The other thing I want to talk about real quick with regard to business plans, and then I'm going to turn it over to answering questions and whatnot. Be prepared to be told no. I was talking to Clara earlier this morning. We were talking about 2 or 3 of our really outstanding, high-performing clients, all three in the same industry. All three had the same experience. All three had different business advisors. All three dealt with different banks. All three had the exact same experience. The answer was no. And the tendency is to run out of the bank going, oh my God, my whole life's ruined. I still got to go to work. I got to work for this other guy. I'm going to do everything else. No, the advisor had told them. The advisors told them, this is probably going to happen. This is what we do next. We sit down and go, okay, you get another meeting with them, pencil and paper. What did you like about my plan? You make notes. What didn't you like about my plan? And you make notes. And you go back and you start building plan number 2. You try to strengthen their likes and address their dislikes. And you go in for another meeting. And in all three instances of these businesses, they were told no a second time. Due to confidentiality, I can't tell you who they were or what the answers were or anything else. But they went out for a third time and the advisor kept on saying, it's okay, we're going to put the third plan together. And if they say no to this one, we're going to put a fourth one together. They will say yes. This is a great idea. You have the passion to do this. You have the experience to do this. Your resume says you can do it. Go back in. All three of them, third time, they got funded. All three of them did exactly the same thing. They understood one very important thing. Lenders are extremely conservative. Lenders understand lending. They understand money markets. They understand all of that. They don't understand the restaurant industry. They don't understand leisure industries. They don't understand any of that. In all three instances, these three business owners took business plans 2 and 3 and threw them out, went back to business plan number 1, opened their business. The newest one, probably 6 years old, is thriving. The very first one's been around for about 12 years now, thriving. They knew their business. They did their market research. They knew what was going to work in the Ukiah Valley. And that's what they went after. Okay. The other thing is you have a lot of different options with regard to going after a loan. Traditional banks. Most traditional banks will not talk to you unless you've been in business for 2 years. They want 2 years of track record that it's a successful business. We have Cdfis. We have one here in Ukiah called the EDFC, the Economic Development Fund Corporation. They also receive funds, and every single county has access to a Cdfi. They have funds from the state and the feds that are specifically earmarked to small business in that county that cannot get funding any other way. Traditional lenders are saying, no, we're sorry. So that money is there for them. The other option is you go through us and we send you off to the Finance Center over in Sacramento. They handle all of Northern California. They are the NorCal SBDC. What's nice about them, we had a B&B client that came in and pushed everything through. And here come the loan papers. They came out of a bank in Maine. And I asked, I go, why did we go to Maine? And the loan specialist in Sacramento says, there's more bed and breakfasts up in Maine any other place, and there's 2 banks. That's all they do is B&B loans. When they saw the numbers, they just looked at it and said yes. They understood it was California, not Maine, and they made the adjustment for the cost of living and said yes. The other thing is the Finance Center will actually shop your loan for you. You don't have to worry about going into meetings or anything else. What you need to make sure that you have is a bulletproof business plan, and they will do the rest of it for you. All right. Clara?
Awesome. Thank you. Are you ready to answer some questions?
Sure.
Excellent. And just a reminder, if anybody has any questions for Steve, either let us know in the chat or maybe go ahead and raise your hand if you want to unmute yourself and personally ask your question. All questions are encouraged. So just to get things quickly started, Steve, question. Would you advise a farmer start an LLC for a new business on the farm, such as setting up an educational program, fee-based sort of thing? What are your thoughts?
The LLC is really going to be based on what's going on, how many assets are out there, how many assets are at stake, what kind of revenues are coming in. Is $800 going to put a dent in operations? And so I would actually much rather you speak to your accountant or CPA. If you don't have a CPA, we can help you find one. But the most important thing is I've had a couple of businesses that just started off becoming an LLC, and all of a sudden they lost $800 of their startup funds. So if it's built in your startup funds, it's in your business plan. If that $800 charge for your business is in there for an LLC, because when the capital spending is done, you've got $200 or $300 in assets you need to protect, then yes, that's all built in there. But if you're going to do the LLC, make sure that you are financially able to do it, and that you're not going to spend $800 to protect $2,500 worth of assets. $25,000, yes. $2,500, no.
So definitely something to consider and not just jump into. Great. Next question, Steve. This question is from Stephanie. Stephanie. I'm starting a you-pick flower farm. I decided against an LLC at this point. Would you advise otherwise?
Again, it would really depend on looking at your financials, looking at your balance sheet, looking at your profit and loss statement, and, excuse me. And then, of course, talking to a financial person. And by financial person, we have a couple on staff that are not on staff, but available to us that Clara went out and brought in, and they are tax people. And we would bring that in and sit down with them and say, listen, we got a client that's got this issue. What do you think? What would your advice be? And so when you get the advice back from us, it's good, sound advice. Licensed people have looked at this and provided a pathway. We never tell you what to do. We just give you options.
Fantastic, thank you. We're going to have a couple more LLC questions. I think it's a hot topic for a good reason this year. So, question from Carol: will everyone benefit from the $800 annual fee being dropped this year? I have an LLC, and that's always been a big expense, especially this year.
Mm-hmm. This is for first-time LLCs only. So if you've been a sole proprietor, you're just starting up, and you are getting ready to register your LLC for the first time, this is the only way you can get it waived. And in that regard, if your sales budget is going to put you in a position to be able to make the $800 payment in 2022 pretty invisible, get the LLC now. It's free.
But, and just to reiterate, this is just a one-time. So if you already have an LLC, you're still going to have to pay.
You're going to have to pay the $800 fee, correct?
Thank you for the clarification.
Reminds me of my old life when we used to sell HBO, and we charged everybody full price except for new ones, and then they got a half off, and then
good old days.
when I saw the offer, I kind of went, good, somebody else is taking the calls now.
Excellent. Thank you. Next question from Mike. How do employees/hired hands fit into LLC, such as payroll, independent contractor? What about volunteer docents?
One more time on that, please.
Docents. Oh, sorry, I need some water. So how do employees fit in with an LLC, such as payroll? How does that change versus a sole proprietorship?
It doesn't. The only thing it changes is basically your liability and in some instances your tax status. It doesn't, and it's just about the structure of the business. That's it. Tax liabilities and whatnot. We have LLCs that are doing $500,000-$600,000 a year, and it's the owner. That's it. We have other LLCs that are doing $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year, and they got a couple of employees. And so it all depends. But it is strictly a way for you to structure your business with regard to tax liability and general liability.
Great, thank you. I'm going to skip down to the next couple of questions because we've answered a few actually just in the last minute or two. So next question I want to address is from Stephanie. Would you recommend starting with the time investment / bookkeeper QuickBooks online, or maybe in year 2?
If you can afford it, do it now, but do not turn it over to anybody yet until you fully understand how cash moves through your business. You need to know that. It's not that you're turning something over to somebody and it's about trust. It's about you knowing how your business operates. And the one thing you would always be getting every month is a monthly P&L from whoever's doing the books. And when you get them, you need to know, oh, that's good, or oh my God, what happened? And if you don't know what those numbers are supposed to look like, you can look at it and say, well, there's money in the bank and the door's still open, so I guess we're okay. That's a recipe for disaster. So anytime you do anything like that, the more you know about your business from the ground up is great. QuickBooks is a fantastic tool to use. It really is. It can be very complicated. Right now, at one time we had 2 QuickBooks advisors. We have none now. And one of them went back to work for somebody else, and the other one decided to leave the industry. But once you understand how all of that works, you know that much more about what's going to happen, and you can make really good plans on your business. You already know, if I need to do a $10,000 expansion, what's it going to cost me in sales? You can find that out in QuickBooks.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, can I ask a question? Steve, are you going to be in the other session that you're going to be doing? Will you be introducing or talking about some of those business statements, profit and loss,
Yes.
and such?
You should get a workbook before session 4. It's called a cost and price tool structure. And you're basically looking at, this is what I got to pay for the things I sell. This is the cost of running my business. Oh, I just went in and found out what is the established gross profit margin for my industry. When you have those 3 things, you know what you should be charging, you know what you should be bringing back. All of these culminate in a final report that's a profit and loss statement.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for the question. And just to tack on something, just because you perhaps you have systems set up right now for your current business and those systems are working, and that's great. But as you're trying to evolve your business or look at alternative revenue streams or open up another side business in addition, making sure that you have a full system in place for your financials that'll lead you to success. You know, just because you might have been doing it one way before and that's been working really well, that's fantastic. But just making sure that you are accounting for this additional revenue stream, this additional part of your business, the growth, the expansion, and making sure that you're ready for that. Doesn't mean you're going to always have to be doing the books or always have to be checking Excel spreadsheets or QuickBooks or anything like that. But knowing how it works means that you'll be in that much better of a position when you bring on help for that or contract that work out. So just my 2 cents.
No, it's right out of the advisor's handbook. It sounds like you helped write it.
Well, I did just, we actually did just do a QuickBooks workshop this past March. We're doing one currently every Thursday afternoon on QuickBooks Desktop, and we'll be doing another QuickBooks workshop on QuickBooks Online later this summer. So just keep your eyes out for that information. But that's something that our instructor continually, lets people know. Just because we're learning about QuickBooks or whatever finance system that you want to learn and invest time into doesn't mean you're always going to have to do it. I'm also telling myself that because finances terrify me. I'm much more of the marketing side, but knowing how that works gives me that much more information. So moving on to the next couple questions, and we've only got a couple more minutes. So again, if you have any questions for Steve, really advise you to take advantage of this moment. Let us know either in the chat or just go ahead and unmute yourself and feel free to interrupt me at any point. So question, Penny, great question for us. Does West Center have counselors to help business people work out or define their business concept and the feasibility of their idea? What a great question.
One
Steve?
quick question. Yeah, there's one of the documents that you should have access to is the feasibility worksheet, and allows you to start putting your ideas down and taking a look at them and what's it going to cost me to kind of put this together, and am I going to generate enough in sales to be able to do this? Is there a business there? And that's what the fee, and we always, whenever we have a startup client, and that's the first thing we do is feasibility. What are you doing? Why are you doing? And what's your expertise? And it is, a lot of people don't do that. They just jump in with both feet, and then either they never really get there, or they get there and then it falls apart. And I want to make one real quick statement. I cannot tell you how many clients, and we were talking about this internally the other day, are right on the precipice of making it, and they get so tied in knots, and they go, I'm done, I'm walking away. And we're going, you're there. You've got one more thing to do, and you're there. And so that's why it's really important. And it's not so much maybe not a business advisor like, like us, but to have somebody you can go to talk to, somebody in the industry or somebody that understands finance or just general business, to proof these things out, because there have been so many people that have thrown it away, and then they come back 3 years later and do it, and they go, God, I should have done this 3 years ago. But we're all different, and we all deal with those things a certain way. We all learn a different way.
I will say that that's part of the benefit for West having such a diverse background of advisors, because if, just throwing out examples, you have an agricultural business, but you want to do the B&B. We have a hospitality advisor. That's their business. They know probably, who knows very much. I don't know if they know very much about farming, but they do know about B&Bs and hotels and how to run that industry really well. So keep that in mind. Now, we do have a single minute left, so I just saw a question come through the chat. So Steve, I'm going to throw this at you, and then we're going to talk about everyone's favorite topic, which is homework. So question from Mike: any issues with county permits dragging on, adding new requirements, more studies and approvals? We do have someone here who helps us with specific county permits. Steve, do you want to talk just for 30 seconds about that before we talk about homework?
Sure. We have specialists in everything. And if we don't have them directly here, we have them outside of Northern California, but we do have a zoning and permitting specialist. This is what this young lady does for a living. And like most of our contract advisors, they have their own small business, and we're lucky enough to have them contract with us on certain things. Planning, zoning, permitting in Mendocino County. Yeah, I'd rather have my wisdom teeth pulled out again without anesthesia. The pain will go away a lot faster. And
the swelling, hopefully.
Yeah, and it is just, it's crazy, but it's the nature of the beast. And there are thousands of examples of why. How many times have we seen buildings collapse during because it had 30 inches of snow on it or something like that, or just things happening. That's why that process is there. It may seem like it's an overburden, but it's necessary, and we have to deal with it. And we have somebody that can help you with it.
Absolutely. And so just to address some questions that are coming through, again, West Business Development Center is the host to the Women's Business Center and the Small Business Development Center for Mendocino and Lake County. We are a nonprofit, so our advising, these advisors that we keep putting up on pedestals and hopefully will meet all of your expectations, these are no cost sessions. All you have to do is just call up and sign up to become a client, which is absolutely free. It's a delightful 20-minute call with our client service specialist, Lillian. She's a delight. Or you can also sign up online if you don't have time for a phone call, and you will then get to speak with Steve or someone else and get that process started. So it is no cost. Yes, there is a SBDC in Sonoma County. So if you want to get in contact, you can either look them up. You can also call us, and we'll help put you in touch as well. I think that's addressed everything. Also, just a quick shout out for our workshops too, which I handle. Again, I put some links in the chat box. I'll happily share those links with Penny for post-event emails and things like that. It's been such a pleasure. Steve, do you want to go over the homework just briefly?
Homework, there's a business plan questionnaire. I'd like you to start filling it out for your LOB. your line of business. What are you looking at doing? You may have to make two. You may have to do a business plan questionnaire for your existing business, even though it's up and operating, so you can draw those parallels into the LOB you're looking at doing. The other thing is pay attention to the web links. There is a ton of information in there. You've got access to some governmental and private websites that their whole being is business to help you with everything. One quick thing about Lake County does not have business licenses. And so if you're going to be operating in Lake County or Sonoma County, Sonoma County also does not have business licenses. Get an EIN from the IRS. When you're dealing with vendors with regard to buying wholesale and everything else, they're usually asking for a business license. You don't have one, give them your EIN and you will not have a problem. As long as you got your seller's permit from the state of California, of course, there's a link for that also in the instructions on how to do that in the web links.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's all from the West show. Thanks, guys.
Penny, thank you so much. And
yes, thank you.
Everybody, thank you again today for allowing us to come in. Very, very special. Thank you.